Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then hi, my name is Erica, and today I want to talk a little bit about ableism in the media. I do have a video on this already. It was a collaboration with a fellow disabled YouTuber, Forrest, but in this one I'm gonna go a bit more in depth because I'm currently pursuing my master's in disability studies, and this was something we learned about, so I thought, oh, let me cover this on my channel. So if you'd like to watch that, then please just continue. One of the first negative stereotypes towards disabled people in the media is pitiable and pathetic. So this trope is like, it's somebody who incites pity and makes the other characters feel bad for them. And an example of this is Tiny Tim. I mean, he's one of probably the most recognizable disabled characters in Western society. I only say Western because I don't know a lot of other, I don't know a lot of media that is not here. So that's why I'm saying Western, because I don't know what I don't know. But anyway, but what's so bad about this trope is that, first of all, Tiny Tim serves as like a reminder to Ebenezer Scrooge that he needs to change his ways and not be such an asshole. And I mean, on the surface, that may seem great because, like, oh, well, if it weren't for Tiny Tim, he wouldn't have changed. But here's the thing, though. Here's my issue with it, is Tiny Tim doesn't really have his own storyline. He serves as a plot device for Ebenezer Scrooge. And in that sense, a disabled person is being used as a prop for a non-disabled person to better themselves, and that's problematic. And also, disabled people don't want to be pitied because pity doesn't give us rights. Okay, and the next trope or stereotype I'm going to be talking about, and again, I got this list from a research paper I read for school, so I will link that paper down below if you're interested in reading it. But the next trope is the Supercrip. Now, on the surface, this may seem like it's a positive trope because it often includes disabled people overcoming their disabilities, or even if they do not overcome their disabilities, they're overcoming this big feat and they're accomplishing something great. And the reason why this is negative, in my opinion, is because disabled people should not have to, number one, they shouldn't have to overcome their disabilities to be seen as valuable. Disabled people have value just as they are. And number two, also, like, I feel like it sets the standard so high for disabled people when it's like non-disabled people don't have to prove their worth by going above and beyond. And it's also not a really realistic trope because most disabled people will never be able to overcome their disabilities, and that is just fine. And an example of a character who exhibits this is Forrest and Gump in Forrest and Gump. And if you remember, it was either the beginning scene or one of the beginning scenes, Forrest, well, young Forrest at the time, he's wearing leg orthotics, leg braces, and he literally runs his orthotics off, and so it's implied that after that he no longer needs the orthotics because somehow he overcame his disability. And it is also implied throughout the movie that Forrest also has an intellectual disability. But then he goes on to achieve all these great things, which is fine, but I mean, it's more framed as like it's all a coincidence and he is oblivious to everything, which I think is a pretty problematic storyline to insinuate that he's like oblivious. Like, just because somebody has an intellectual disability does not mean they have no idea what's going on around them. And also the film just depicts him as childlike, which, if you know about infantilization, it's infantilizing to depict disabled characters as childlike, because where even people who have intellectual disabilities are still adults who deserve to have autonomy over their own lives and be seen and respected as adults. Like, there's no reason why disabled people should not be treated in their age, in my opinion. And the third trope is sinister, evil, or criminal. Now, this is seen in a lot of Marvel movies. If you've ever seen a Marvel movie, which I'm assuming you've seen at least one of them at some point in your life, but a lot of the villains in Marvel movies have become disabled as a result of an accident, or just they might have been disabled at birth, and so they are angry at the world and they turn into this villain who is trying to destroy the world. Now, I will be the first to tell you that as a disabled person, ableism infuriates me, but I mean, that doesn't mean I'm this evil person. Like, and I feel like this goes to show, like, there's a binary, in my opinion, when it comes to depicting disabled characters, and that may seem silly when I am listing out 7 different ableist stereotypes in the media, but here's what I mean by the binary. Disabled people in the media are usually either depicted as like these saints, these innocent angels, or like the devil, these evil people who are trying to corrupt society. And it's like, that's very dehumanizing, because it makes disabled characters one-dimensional, when in reality disabled people are very nuanced and complex people. Like, we're not either all good or all bad. We're human beings that sometimes fuck up, but that doesn't make us evil. And the next stereotype here on my list is header off dead. Now, the first film that came to mind when I was reading that research paper was Me Before You. Now, if you don't know, Me Before You was a movie. I think it came out in like 2015 or 2016, so it was fairly recently, and it was based on a book by the same name, by, I think her name is Jojo Moynes, and the film is about a man named Will Trainer who becomes a paraplegic after my dog has something to say about this. But anyway, Will Trainer becomes a paraplegic after he's in an accident, and after that he becomes very depressed. He falls into this depression, and I think part of it is because he grew up very privileged, so he was like this playboy, and he really valued his appearance, and he was a very superficial person. So when he became a quadriplegic, that was like his worst nightmare. But anyway, so he becomes very depressed, even suicidal, and instead of being given prevention for those thoughts and receiving therapy and help, his family helps him and his life, and it is insinuated that disabled people cannot live happy lives, and that the best option for them is to just end their life. Now, I think most people watching this will be able to know why that is problematic. And also, another issue with that film is that his parents hire him a personal assistant named Louisa Clark, and she becomes his love interest. And when Will ends his life, he leaves everything to Louisa, and it is implied that he ended his life so that he would not hold Louisa back, because he saw himself as a burden on Louisa. And the film and the book, because I did read the book, it never really interrogates these questions, or says why is it that when Will feels this way, people help him end his life, but if Will was able-bodied, he would be receiving treatment and be taken seriously. Like, is it a result of ableism? And my answer to that question would be yes. And my next stereotype on this list is Maladjusted, and this is basically when disabled people need an abled savior to teach them how to live and how to be happy. And my example for this is, again, Will Trainer from me for you, because Louisa isn't just hired as his personal assistant who is there to help him, like, get dressed and have all of his personal care needs taken care of, but also his parents hire Louisa to show him that life is still worth living even while disabled. And I think that is problematic. Like, why didn't they try to get him into a support group of other disabled people and have disabled people helping disabled people? Like, we don't need an able savior to swoop in and save us from ourselves. And another trope that's related to Maladjusted is their own worst enemy, but I'm not going to go into that too much because I feel like I just described that, so I'm going to move on. And the next stereotype is that disabled people are a burden, which I again covered when I talked about me for you. And this is problematic because disabled people are not burdens, and we don't deserve to be treated as such. Like, we're human beings deserving of everything that non-disabled people are deserving of. And my last trope here is unable to live a successful life. Now, I feel like all of the movies and characters that I previously mentioned can fit this category, but another film that comes to mind when I think of the trope that disabled people are unable to live a successful life is The Shape of Water. Now, if you don't know, this was a film, I think it was either directed or produced by the famous filmmaker Guillermo del Toro, and it won an Oscar, which is a big issue. But it's about this deaf woman named Louisa who works at this science lab, and she's a maintenance worker there, and she doesn't have many friends because she cannot really communicate with a lot of people because she uses sign language, and nobody around her uses sign language, so she's very alone, and she doesn't have a good job, and she can't meet anybody to date, and she falls in love with this sea monster, and together at the end they live in the sea because it is insinuated that Lisa cannot live in the world with non-deaf people. And I mean, this film can be taken in different ways. I happen to have my biases because this was not made by a deaf or disabled person, so that's why my opinion is the way it is. But some people argue that this film is actually anti-ableist because it shows that the world is ableist, so Elisa's only choice is to flee to the ocean with a sea monster. But I personally don't buy that because they didn't even recruit a deaf actor to play Elisa. So I take it as disabled people are unable to live in society, and it is seen more of an individual problem rather than a societal problem, which ableism is a societal issue. And that is the end of my list. And I just want to be clear here that if you like any of the films I just named, I'm not saying never watch it again or that you're an ableist, but like I'm from the mindset that you don't have to always throw out the baby with the bath water. Like, you can critique certain things about a film and not hate it completely. So if you like any of these films, please don't feel like I'm shaming you, because I'm not doing that. I'm just trying to raise awareness. And I think that more so the point of this is to be like, moving forward, I hope that films are better and they don't use these ableist tropes, because ultimately I know people say, oh, they're just movies, whatever, but I do think the media does influence how people think to some degree, and it has the power to either reinforce our biases or make us question them and make us think a little. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you have not already and you would like to see more of my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.